Hello everyone, welcome back to MLS Moves. Please make sure you like this video down below and subscribe to the channel if you are new. We are going to discuss the state of MLS in the month of March. But before we get to the video, I'd like to thank you all for your support and remind you that we're doing a jersey giveaway when we hit 3,000 subscribers. 3,000 subscribers is our goal to reach by the end of this month, so make sure you subscribe, stay subscribed, follow me on Twitter at MLS Moves for updates on the giveaway, and on to the video. First, I want to start off with the biggest surprises this season in MLS so far. The first one I want to start off with is Inter Miami. Inter Miami did not qualify for the playoffs last year, even though they won Leagues Cup in the summer. They weren't able to put everything together and qualify at the last minute for the 2023 MLS Cup playoffs. But this season, they are number one in the East with 10 points their first 5 matches. Luis Suarez looks like his knee is holding up. Now, there are questions about Leo Messi and his durability and his injuries. The hamstrings are starting to become an issue with the Argentine number 10, but this club looks like they're well organized. They're playing great ball. You've got Redondo, Busquets, and Diego Gomez, which is probably the best midfield trio in MLS. Defense hasn't been a total liability this season. Obviously, having Kristoff off the bench has helped things a lot instead of relying on him to start. Calendar's been pretty solid throughout this season. They look very good. They've got some reinforcements coming in, it looks like pretty soon. So this is a team that is a surprise. A lot of people thought that this team would struggle and wouldn't live up to the hype in the 2024 season. And thus far, they look like they're the team to beat in MLS. Another surprise we have is Minnesota United. Minnesota United had an interim coach this fall who decided to step down and pursue other options. So they had a second interim coach. And then they hired their coach, Eric Ramsey, who was an assistant coach at Manchester United, to come in, and things haven't skipped a beat for the club. They're still undefeated, 10 points, lead in the West. Obviously, Pukki's looking very solid. Zhang's looking very good. This is a club that is on the rise, a team that a lot of people didn't expect to be this good coming at the start of the season. I would say that they are a huge surprise for me, for sure. Dane St. Clair's playing very well. This is a team that I believe is going to end up making the MLS Cup playoffs. They need a few reinforcements this summer, but the Adrian Heath curse has finally been lifted. The Minnesota United fans can finally rejoice. They're going to make the playoffs, I believe, this season. They are a pleasant surprise, and they are a team to watch in MLS this season. The next one is Portland Timbers. Phil Neville was a very criticized manager at Inter Miami and had a disappointing tenure in general with the Florida club. So a lot of people were skeptical about his hire with the Portland Timbers, but he has the Timbers looking very solid. Back to, the results of the early Giovanni Savarese days. He's only lost 1 match. He's got 7 points through 4 games. He's got Anthony playing very well. Diego Chara looks pretty solid. Evander is still trying to integrate back in after having an injury in the beginning of the season. They're reportedly getting Jonathan Rodriguez from Club America, which will help because they desperately need a striker up top. Kamal Miller and Maxime Crepeau look solid in the defense, and Crepeau in goal. This team is very surprising and could be a dangerous team down the stretch. I think that early on they're showing that they can compete, and that even without a striker, a true number 9 up top, they're able to get some points. And once Jonathan Rodriguez comes in, who has been a formidable striker, a lethal striker in Liga MX, it will be very interesting to see how this team adjusts and how much better this team could possibly get under the direction of Phil Neville. Another big surprise in MLS this season has been CF Montreal. Montreal is a team that I predicted to be possibly the wooden spoon winner in the 2024 MLS season. It's been a turnstile with coaches, especially the devastating loss of Wilfred Nancy when he decided to go to the Columbus Crew. But Laurent Courtois has had this team playing pretty well. Kokoro has been very solid up top. It looks like a very under-the-radar, productive signing from Argentina. A lot of my people that I talk to who know South American football a little better than me were very high on that signing and believed that he would be doing very well in MLS, and he has. This looks like a sneaky good team. Obviously, there's a lot of players that the average MLS fan would not be familiar with, but they're playing very well. They look formidable, and it'll be interesting to see how the Montreal club will be able to adjust and how they'll be able to finish down the stretch. They've got a great start early on the season. Will they be able to continue this? Will they collapse? I don't know, but this early on, they're looking very solid, and I have to say most people are surprised and impressed with what the impact, I still call them the impact even though they ditched that, what Montreal has done thus far in this season. Now, I want to talk about the biggest disappointments this season so far also. At number 1, we have to go with New York City FC. New York City FC spent over $15 million this offseason to try to revamp this roster, which has a bunch of young talent. You got Talis Magno, you've got Santi Rodriguez, you've got Jason, you've got Mihajlovic that they just signed on a record deal. You've got Agustin Ojeda, you've got Fernandez. This team is stacked with young talent. Nick Cushing is not getting the job done. He is very underwhelming thus far with his stint in New York City FC, not qualifying for the playoffs last year. This is a City Football Group owned club. The expectations are to win trophies, and to not even make the playoffs is unacceptable when 18 of 19 clubs make the playoffs every single season. He gets an F for me. He has been a total disaster. I think most of the New York City FC fan base agrees with that take. I don't think he will last much longer. He got his first win against Toronto in week 4, but he still is 1-3. I just don't think with what they've invested, he's going to make it. I expect New York City FC to most likely have a coaching change at least by the summer. The next one is Seattle Sounders. Now, they've had a lot of injuries. Pedro de la Vega has had a knock, and he hasn't been able to fully integrate into the lineup thus far. But the Seattle Sounders, I predicted them to be first in the West. Brian Schmetzer's had a couple down seasons in the last 3 years, and I think Brian Schmetzer is arguably one of the greatest coaches, if not the greatest coach in MLS history. Obviously, 2 MLS Cups, 4 MLS Cup appearances, 1 CONCACAF Champions League trophy, the first in modern MLS to do that. He is a great coach, but sometimes the same voice can become stagnant and players lose interest, especially when you look at the roster and how many of those players have been there for so many years. I think that maybe if things don't get better, even if the injuries are partly to blame for their struggles, I think it might be time to make a change in Seattle. I know I'm going to get a lot of backlash for that, but sometimes great things come to an end, and if the results are not there, it might be time to make a change in Seattle. Another one is Orlando City. Orlando City completely dropped the bag in CONCACAF Champions League, getting absolutely trounced by Tigres. And then they haven't done much better in MLS this season. They currently have no wins. They have 3 losses and 1 draw. And this is a club that most people, including myself, were thinking would be a legitimate contender for MLS Cup in 2024. They added Nico Ladero, they added Luis Muriel. They were looking for Facundo Torres to take that next step. Duncan Maguire to improve off of his strong rookie season. The back 4 is a vulnerability. I'm not sold on their back 4. I think Pedro Galese is a very good goalkeeper, but this team's got some serious issues. And Oscar Pereira was already kind of questionable going into last year with a slow start that he had. He was able to pick it up down the stretch and finish pretty strong and finish second in the East. But there is no excuses for this club to be ranked 14th right now in the standings in the Eastern Conference. If he cannot get it done, someone else can. This club is way too talented at the moment to be struggling this bad. They have to do better. Then we have LAFC. LAFC is kind of an incomplete roster at the moment. They only have 21 senior spots filled at this time, the smallest roster in MLS. They have a bunch of new pieces that they've had to bring in. LAFC is a club that each year has a lot of turnover because they can't afford, with the strict MLS roster rules, to keep certain guys because they want a pay raise. This team is still incomplete. I wouldn't hit the panic button just yet, but there is a lot of concerning things going on with this club, and they only have 4 points out of a possible 12 thus far. Now, one of the losses was the RSL Blizzard game. You can't really blame them for that because it's conditions they're not really used to, and RSL, you can make the argument has an advantage because that is, they were at home and, some of these players are used to that kind of weather, even though I've heard that the facility RSL has is indoors, so it's not like they actually practice out in this weather. But we'll chalk it up to Mother Nature that they weren't prepared to play in a weathered condition game like that. But they are still struggling. They look incomplete. They need a striker. There's been reports that have suggested that Olivier Giroud is coming to LAFC possibly this summer. And if they can get him up top to give them a competent playmaking striker, then possibly add this other French attacker, maybe by the name of Antoine Griezmann. I don't know if you've heard of him, but if they can add him as well, you have Denis Bouanga, Olivier Giroud, and Antoine Griezmann, the best front three in MLS. It's not even close. There is no MLS club that is stopping that. This is a defense's worst nightmare in MLS. Still too early. Wouldn't hit the panic button, but you cannot deny they have disappointed thus far in this season. Now, when it comes to the Golden Boot race, we kind of have 4 serious contenders thus far who I think has a legitimate chance of winning it. We have Dejan Joveljic, who has bounced back this season, is looking very solid. Having the service of Ricky Puig and Joseph Paintsil has made a world of difference, and when you add Peck into the lineup, fully integrated, it will be interesting to see how many goals Joveljic will be able to score this season. I think he will probably score at least 20. Then you have Luis Suarez, the Uruguayan legend, who many people thought was finished, including myself, thinking he would struggle because of the injuries and the age. 4 goals in 5 matches for Inter Miami. He's looking very solid. He is carrying over his Brazilian form into MLS, and he looks lethal. Then you have Georgios Giakoumakis, who's also got 4 goals. He looks like he's adjusting to the league finally. This is his 2nd year in MLS. He knows what to expect from the league. And Atlanta United is playing better. I think that Giakoumakis is very much in the race to win the Golden Boot. He might actually be the favorite when it's all said and done, especially because he will not miss as many games probably as Luis Suarez. Then my 4th guy is Cucho Hernandez. Cucho Hernandez has been a lethal striker since he's came to MLS. He was a winger at Watford. He transitioned into a number 9 with the Columbus Crew, and I think that under Wilfried Nancy, he has really unlocked the consistency. You know, you see him when Christian Ramirez comes off the bench, the dynamic duo that they make. Obviously, having Diego Rossi as a playmaker has helped a lot. I think that this is another solid player who could win the MLS Golden Boot. He has 3 goals so far this season, and he is one to watch. Now, I want to get into the MVP race. The MVP race, I think it's down to 2 people. There's maybe a couple other people that you could make the argument for, but there's 2 players that have really stuck out to me this season. Number 1 is Ricky Puig for the LA Galaxy. Puig has been the most important piece for the Galaxy. Every single thing flows through him in the game. He has to have the most touches of any player in MLS. I have not looked it up, but just when I watch him, I feel like everything flows through him. He is always touching the ball. He is the most ball-centric player I have seen in MLS in a while, and I feel like he is the heartbeat of the team. He is playing at his best level that we've seen in MLS, but he's doing it consistently this year. He has the help around him. He's got 2 very good wingers in Paintsil and Peck. He's got Joveljic up top. Now the back line is still questionable, but I think that this is by far the best team he has had since he's been with the LA Galaxy, and he has to be up there at the top of the list for MLS MVP. And that brings me on to Luis Suarez. Luis Suarez won the MVP of the Brazilian League in 2023, and I think he's on pace to do the same thing in MLS in 2024. Luis Suarez is scoring incredible goals. He is making the right runs, the right movements. He's even being a playmaker. He just looks like he is back to his normal self regardless of injuries, and I just don't know how anyone could not say that Luis Suarez is the MVP frontrunner right now. Maybe it would be Leo Messi if he wasn't hurt, but right now, Luis Suarez is the best player for Inter Miami's team. Let me know in the comment section, who would you guys have as your league MVP through the first month of MLS? I'd be curious to see if you agree with me, who you guys would have in there. Is it Luis Suarez? Is it Puig? Is it someone else? Let me know in the comment section. And I want to do my top 3 coaches who are on the hot seat and could be the first ones fired. At number 3, I have Oscar Pereira. Oscar Pereira, like I mentioned earlier, just signed an extension with Orlando City back in the winter or late fall, but he is totally underwhelmed for what this team has invested in resources. And if he doesn't get his act together soon, he will be fired. Someone else can lead this team. There's too much talent for them to be struggling this bad. At number 2, I have Josh Wolf. Josh Wolf had a great season in 2022 with Austin FC, but ever since then, he's been a total disaster. I didn't have him in my most disappointing starts the season because they were already bad last year. They're just continuing the trend of being bad this season. I think that experiment is close to being over. They have to pull the plug on him. We've seen enough. He is not an effective Major League Soccer manager. And at number 1, we have Nick Cushing. Like I alluded to earlier, Nick Cushing is a total failure, especially by the high standards of City Football Group. No other team CFG owned would keep a manager who has been this underwhelming for this long. He has had roughly a year and a half. This is like his, second full season, but he had a half season in 2022 when Dyla left for Belgium to get this thing going and have the opportunity to really showcase his abilities. He has been a total failure. This is not the components of a CFG ran team when it comes to coaching. They have to move on. They have to get a better manager. They've got way too much talent, way too much invested to have these type of results. They need to do better. I think Cushing is got to be number one on my hot seat. He is the most likely coach in MLS to get fired first. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know in the comment section down below, what is the biggest surprise of MLS's season thus far? How would you rate this season, the quality of play? Is there anybody on the hot seat that I didn't mention, or do you agree with my list? Who do you think has been the best player in MLS this season so far? And who has been the best team? Who has been the worst team? Comment down below. Let me know what you guys think. Also, I want to mention, just a reminder, we're doing our jersey giveaway at 3,000 subscribers. So make sure you hit that subscribe button. Follow me on Twitter so you never miss any updates on the giveaway. Hit that little bell notification so you never miss a video. And also, if you haven't already, make sure you like this video down below. And until next time, I will see you all soon.